Dennis can join us at 3:50.
Who?
Dennis Hebert can join us at 3:50.
Certain devices and something that you want to hit. That's something I'm gonna have to do. Because you'll have the information. So that's what I was just seeing, but we'll go from there. I guess that most likely the best way to do it, which is just pretty much making it live more. That project, I don't know, I don't know anybody else, so I don't know if that. But this would be a. Just want to make sure that. Yeah. You don't want to do like try to rely. You want to just try to keep what we got and just try to fill up.
For now.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let them know. You have a good day. Enjoy your day.
I'm just recording off that one. Yeah, this is the one that's,
Yeah.
that one doesn't have
Okay.
Yeah, Eleanor's on the call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. 3:00. Okay. 3:00, we'll call the meeting to order.
You gotta go.
Oh, yeah.
Are there?
We're call the meeting to order, and due to the governor's ruling COVID-19, we can remote Zoom under order number 12, executive order 2020-04 is authorized, the board is authorized to meet electronically. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll have a pledge of allegiance. Michael, can you lead us in the pledge of allegiance wherever you are?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Michael. Selectman Latcher, are you with us? Well, we still got, I know he,
I don't see him yet. Ken Latcha, are you on the call?
One entered into the waiting room, Martha. Does that mean anything?
That call-in user.
no one?
I don't have him yet.
Okay. We'll wait 30 seconds more before we get the meeting going. We know Selectman Latcher wants to come in. It's your call. He's in before right home. That was 15, 20 minutes ago.
Right. He's on, huh? I bet you that's what it is. I bet you he's gotta make sure to hit that little speaker button. He tells me he's on. There he is.
Because the host has to let him in.
Great, let him in.
Okay.
Okay, very good. We have all three selectmen here. We'll start with approval of the minutes of January 11th, 21.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, manifest approval, 113,000.
Ted, don't you have to do a roll call vote?
Thank you very much. Roll call vote. Thank you, Eleanor. Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Ron is yes. The manifest, $113,426.07 dated January 14th, 2020. I think it should be 2021. And $65,551.91 dated 2021. I'll entertain a motion of approval.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it with the change of the date from 2020 to 2021.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah, all right, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
All in favor, roll call. Mr. Latcher,
Yes.
Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Connors, yes. Facility use. We have one request for a facility for Cassandra Hutchins, Town Hall, January 30th. A baby shower, and they answered all the questions, gave all the deposits, insurances, and everything else.
I'll make a motion. We approve it.
I'll
Okay,
second it.
motion's made, and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney,
Yes.
Delatro,
Yes.
Connors, yes. The next item on the agenda is a petition and a letter from Brian Haverstraw, the use of motorized vehicles on town forests. Brian, are you available?
I'm here.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. How are you? Can you
Good,
hear
thank
me
you.
okay?
Yeah.
We have your letter and your signed petition by a number of people. Just for the record, I'd like to point out that this is something this is something that has been on the books since 1986. Nothing this Board of Selectmen did. It was a town meeting and
1986.
1986, March of 86. And Brian, the way to correct this, if I'm not mistaken, is that you'd get a new petition and ask them to change this or whatever way you wanted to do. We'd encourage this because I think the deadline is next third, is it, Martha?
Right.
The new audit,
Second, I'm sorry.
the
February
new,
2nd.
new article would have to be in by February 2nd, which I believe is next Tuesday. So between now and next Tuesday, if you can come in and draft the warrant article that you want, we'll be very happy, more than happy to put it on for the town meeting. There's nothing the selectmen can do because this was a vote of the town meeting.
Right. I guess I'd like to see that ordinance because the police don't have it, and I couldn't find it at the town myself. So that would be helpful if I could have that. So if I needed to draft something, we can.
Oh, yeah, we have it. We could.
Martha, can you email that to me, please?
Pardon?
Martha, can you email that to me? Because you have my email address.
Yeah, we'll get it out to you today.
Okay.
All right.
I mean,
Any
so
other-
what was the so I guess the point of it? Why did the sign go up? It just went up in the last 60 days.
Brian, if I may speak up, Ken Latchaw, we had no idea that sign went up. We have not found out yet.
If I can just reply, the last time I knew that new signs went up was back in 2018.
Mhm.
So I know of no new signs, but I'm glad to look into that.
All right, I think it's helpful if you do because it was put up in the last 60 days, and I've been here for 17 years, riding four-wheelers and snowmobiles and walking and hiking back in those acres. And truthfully, I mean, we didn't even get a couple hundred acres back until 10 years ago when Pease gave it back. So I'm curious how this all came about, and I think I think you guys should be wanting to know who would take a vehicle out there, put a sign up with your name on it without your approval. I think that might be your bigger issue because who would do that?
Could you tell us what the sign says, Brian, just to make sure we're on the same page?
Yeah, it says no motorized vehicles or OHRVs per order of the selectmen.
What was the second part, Brian?
I'm just zooming in on it. It says no motorized vehicles or OHRV S per order of the selectmen. And you can clearly see if you actually went down and took a look at it, it's a brand new sign in a brand new pole.
Well, it's very interesting, Brian, that we just noticed it and you noticed it. We have no idea when it went up. It could have gone up 2 years ago, but I doubt it. I doubt that very much. I do want to point out though in the language, because I did bring the ordinance home and I've read it and I'm trying to glance down through it right now, but I've never saw back in 86 the words OHRVS. So Brian, when you get the ordinance, read it carefully and take a look at the sign then, because I think something has been added.
Well, do you think it could have been removed already? Because it's been well known with previous selectmen about four-wheelers running on town property, including one of them, Jan Stewart, would ride her four-wheeler on town property. So I wonder, is this 85, 86 ordinance that you're pulling up, is it truly accurate or has it already been rescinded? Because again, I can tell you, I mean, we've been maintaining this as rec department I was on the rec department for probably 11 years, and we were maintaining that whole area as part of the town.
Well, we certainly should check that to make sure that there was never a second vote between 86 and the last group of selectmen. We know that we haven't voted on anything at all dealing with this in the past 3 years. What would be interesting, Brian, I would suggest when you bring your petition forward, try to get all 40 or even more of those names that you had on your letter that you sent us. I think that's very effective to show the interest of the town and wanting to be able to take their family and children out on those walk paths and riding paths. And I'll just add this, that in 3 years, I've had one complaint, and that was dealing with Fox Point. So I would suggest please go ahead with that petition.
Can I make a comment here, Chris Cross?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Ted. The ordinance in 1986 predates me, and I think many of us in town. And at that time, the area that it applied to was from Nimble Hill Road only to the Air Force boundary, which is about 75 feet east and north and east of Arboretum Drive. It didn't even include the old Stode Schoolhouse. And what the vote of the town was, is the only material that I've been able to see, was that this was considered a compact area. And it was indeed less than about 12 acres at that time. And it was to prohibit the discharge of firearms in close proximity to houses, since the new parsonage was occupied at that time. My house was built shortly thereafter, and the other houses down there. But it wasn't until 1991 when the air base closed and the rest of the full force was not turned over. So at the prior time, the only discussion after 86 that I recall was the discussion of, did the ban on hunting in a compact area also apply to bow and arrow hunting? But as far as ATVs, the use of ATVs is necessary to maintain that area. A lot of the areas, as Brian knows, are not accessible by road vehicles, and there are limited paths. It is a prime wetlands conservation area that runs through there, so some of those trails cross those. So I think it needs some discussion by the Recreation Committee, the Conservation Committee, and probably the Historic District Committee that cover that area. And there's a lot of issues to go over, such as, when you cross wetlands, are electric vehicles authorized? Are vehicles only authorized by groups approved by the selectmen for maintenance or setup of an event, or is open? At various times, we have had people park trailer units in the historic district and offload 2 or 3 vehicles and go out. At one time, they had quite a racetrack going up and were tearing up the grounds, but I don't think that's the intent of what the rec committee is trying to do. They're trying to simply travel out at a reasonable speed. Because you want to be a reasonable speed, not to disturb other hikers or some of the wildlife there. I would suspect that, and we'd also have to look at if there are events, there are a number of people that have put up fire pits out there, not on the town land, but on the adjacent PDA land. And so it's a question of where these trailers would be allowed to park along Arboretum Drive. I think the PDA probably has an interest, and although not properly done, they may have placed the new signs up. I don't know why they would say selectmen on it, but the signs may have come from the PDA, because there's a lot of the forest that is adjacent to Air Force land that is another 40 acres that a lot of the trails go through, and a lot of people aren't aware. It's not the town forest, but it's the PDA land that someday they're going to develop. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much for your background information for us.
Way too much, right, Ted?
Pardon?
Way too much information as usual, right?
Yeah, well, no, we appreciate it. Brian, do you have any other questions or anything else you need to?
Well, I missed some of Chris Cross's comments because of an internet issue here, but yeah, I guess I caught the last part. It was my understanding about 10 years ago, PDA or Ps gave back several, a huge lot of acreage back to Newington. And is that updated on our town maps? And if so, I could take a peek at how that all is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll wait for the ordinance of what it says. And then if something needs to be drafted, I'll draft it. Because if it is restricted just to the small little portion that is, directly behind the stone school, that represents a minuscule portion of the trail system.
We'll forward it on to you today. And if you have any questions, get back to us, please.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Ted, this is Jim Weiner. One interesting thing that you brought up that I wanted to kind of let you know about. You had mentioned that the sign out behind the stone school had the by order of the selectmen. They also, and the selectmen didn't issue it to be put up, and it was put up within the last 60, 90 days. Correct, Brian?
That's correct.
Okay. The only other interesting thing is on the Saba property, there's a sign that doesn't say anything other than what?
What property did you just refer to, please?
The Saba property.
That's at the corner of Old Post and
Oh,
Fox
okay.
Point
Yeah,
Road.
all right. Yeah.
Correct.
That
That
absolutely
has
by the
that has
town.
a brand new sign, and it's a different type of sign. I can't tell you what it is, but it's not the sign that Brian mentioned. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Weiner. We'll look into this. We are looking into it further to investigate what happened here. And if anything comes up, we'll keep you all posted. Thank you very much.
Wait, this is Keith Frizzell. Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Yeah, Keith Frizzell, Fox Point Road. I'd like to make a comment. I appreciate Chris giving us the background on that ordinance and defining what the area that is specifically applied to. I'd like to caution people to not try to create rules concerning the use of property if there's not a problem that pre-exists. It's easy to say we need to create rules, people can do this and can't do that, park here, park there, unless there's a perceivable problem that currently exists. I just want to caution about just making rules for the sake of making rules. That land out there has been being utilized by Newington residents for a very long time. I've been out there for more than 25 years, whether it's hiking or using a snowmobile. There were definitely Newington residents before predating me that were keeping up those trails, and everyone gets along. And so I just, once again, want to caution about making rules where rules aren't really necessary, because then you have to start dealing with enforcement issues on something that's not a problem.
I agree, and thank you very much for pointing that out. It's a very pertinent point. Thank you.
Yes, that's a valid point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may say a few words here. There was a sign put up that we had authorized something that I knew nothing about. I've been a selectman now for 5 years, and it's the first time I've seen or heard any of this issue. And I was a little miffed about it. I really don't like people sticking signs up when nobody's got authority to do that. And I think we're going to find out who did this. And for the people who want to put a petition in, I think that's the right way to do it. Let the people decide what they want, and we'll abide by what their decision is. Mr. Vizel, thank you for information. It was very helpful. Thank you, Chris, for yours. And I appreciate everything you guys have said, and I will support you guys if that's what you want. Thank you for your time.
Well, this is Brian again. Do you think, since you all three were unaware of this and didn't order it, maybe until you figure it out, you should just take it down?
And I would recommend that the ordinance be changed, because frankly, right now, Brian, it says that there should not be motorized vehicles at the town forest. So I would recommend that we solve the problem rather than just changing the signs.
When you get, Brian, Ken Lacho, when you get the ordinance, I just happened to pick up in the middle paragraph, number 2, third line down. There's an exclusion that says permission of the selectmen to go on it, even if it was posted. So take a look at that closely, because we're certainly open, Brian.
Absolutely.
Martha, could you clarify if this is a zoning ordinance or a town policy, or what?
This
It's
is an
an
ordinance, town of ordinance number 86-12, dated March 15th, 86, signed by the town clerk, Jean P. Heath.
Okay,
Not a zoning.
okay, thank you.
And it does predate most of the people who were discussing the issue. I was not in town. Hello?
We'll move on to the next item on the agenda if there's no further questions. Thank you. Next item is Brian Rhodes, the city of Portsmouth. He's due at 3:30. If Brian is there, we'll jump in, but if not, I would just like to say that the selectmen just walked through the fire station, the new addition, with the contractor and the town administrator, Martha, and we found everything in order. We asked the chief, there's a couple of outside drainage issues that have to be addressed. We talked with the Board of Fire Engineers and the chief. They seem very satisfactory and happy with the work and what is there. And we're going back to the architect to discuss the drainage problem and get it resolved. It probably can't be resolved for spring when the ground gets a little better. But that is the latest on a walkthrough we just had prior to this meeting. Thank you.
The chairman, if I may just add that I'm very pleased that we went ahead and did that now, as we all know that gassing off of the fire equipment is cancer causing, and to be able to clean that off the uniforms in a safe manner is wonderful. So I'm glad it's done, and I hope we get many years of use out of it.
Right. Very, pertinent point. Thank you. Brian Goetz, are you there?
I am.
How are you, Brian? Nice to see you. Thank you for coming, coming and going over this with us. Ken Latcher and Mike Marconi are also on the Zoom call from Selectmen, and Martha and I are together here in the office. So what do you need, Brian?
All right. Well, thank you, Chair and Select Board. Brian Gatz with the City of Portsmouth. With me on the call is Darren Larry. Darren is with Wright Pierce, our consulting engineer on this project. I know I've been in communication with Martha for a couple, 3 years now on this project, but we are moving forward with design and permitting of the water line that goes under the bay. So I think Select Board is quite familiar with the water that comes into Newington, actually serves a good portion of the village area, and then also down the waterfront with some of the bigger customers in Fox Point and the Foxhorn Mall. So the water line itself runs from our water treatment facility in Madbury and has a 24-inch water main that comes down from Madbury. It goes through Emery Farm, then it goes under the road, Route 4, and into Wagon Hill Farm, town of Durham, and then to the shoreline, and then it goes under the bay and comes back up at Fox Point. And basically what we are working to do is replace the water lines that go under the bay, or actually install a third main, because through investigations, it was determined that the two water lines, so the line that comes from Madbury, when it gets to Durham and crosses under the bay, it splits into two pipes that run on the underneath the water there in Little Bay. And they're over 60 years old now, and there is some concern that, you know, we could have a leak any day now on those. So we've been working for the last 3 years, doing investigations and coming up with a plan forward. And basically, we're currently permitting with DES to do this work. And we've been before both the town of Durham and Newington just the other day at the Conservation Commission, talking about the project and the wetlands permit. This will not affect any part of the water main that runs from Fox Point all the way up to the booster tank, which is located along the Spalding off of Arboretum Drive. So the work itself is literally in the water for the most part, except for just the connector points on either side of the shore where the line splits. So we brought Darren here to answer some questions, because there were a number of questions that came up in the Conservation Commission. They were very supportive of the project, but they did have some questions as to, you know, how the construction will progress, the timing, and, you know, perhaps where we proposed to do, because in order to do the work, which Darren can explain a little further, we have to stage the work. The Durham side is not at all able to work, because it's very steep. It's got, the access is not very good. The Newington town side, I mean, you have that big field, you have, you know, some approach. And so that our proposal is to be able to do the staging work on the town land there, and then put the pipe out into the water, sink it down, connect it, and then restore the area when we're done. So the question was, some of the laydown area, we've also worked with Martha and your attorneys on you know, getting you know, construction access stuff. So Darren can explain a little bit further on timing, and then we can take some questions.
Thanks, Brian. Yes, so I'm Darren Larry with Wright Pierce. We've been working with the city now for a couple of years, looking at what are the alternatives and options and least impactful ways to another pipe across the river. And we've come up with what we think is a pretty viable solution by adding this third pipe, which is directly in between the two existing pipes to try to minimize the impact going across the bay and also coming up on the shores on either side. So that's what we presented to in our permitting to DES and the conservation commissions. Part of that, this large plastic polyethylene water main needs to get assembled in longer sections before it gets floated out into the water. And so we were looking where's the least impact staging areas to allow us to construct pieces of this pipe that they could put together as they're feeding it out into the water. And walking around the Newington Fox Point site, it appeared that we tried to minimize what was shown on the original permit submittal was a construction staging area to the kind of southwest of the point to try to minimize the impact. What was brought to our attention by the Conservation Commission was there's a barn out there that is historic, and the question was, would it be better to potentially put the construction staging area on the field on the north side of the driveway? So I just put together.
I'm sorry, Darren, can I stop you for 1 minute?
Sure.
I just explained to the board that they have two plans in their binders. One at the top right, you'll see it says July, and the second one says December on the top right. So those are the two alternate plans for that I believe Darren and Brian are going to speak to. Thanks, Darren.
Yep, and the only real difference between the two plans is the newer December plan has a potential alternate construction staging area on the other field side versus the the field closest to Fox. So what, based on the Conservation Commission's comments, the next day we looked at, could we use this area on the other side and stay away from the structures and the driveway access and things that are the town-owned properties down at the end of Fox Point. So I presented this to Brian, he forwarded it to you. We could use either area as a construction staging area. The December plan actually offers a few benefits in that it allows less restricted access to the most used hiking trail down to Fox Point. So we were going to maintain, if you look at those plans, you'll see that we were going to maintain an access around our construction staging area to that Fox Point trail. We will, however, have to close off the loop trail so that we can keep people safe within that construction easement area. If we move
I'm sorry, do you have a time frame on that it will be closed off?
Yeah, so what we believe, based on what New Hampshire DES is going to allow us for permitting, is construction mobilization will likely start in the mid to late fall with a winter construction period. So the
winter this fall. we're hoping to go out this fall, and it would be construction actually this time next year, be underway and done by spring.
So it's about a 6 month project, Brian, less than that?
I think it's probably a little less than that, but that soup to nuts, that's probably not a bad estimate. The in-water work is going to be a much shorter period, but there would be probably a month's worth of work on land before they start the in-water work.
Do you have to shut down the waterways and all?
I'm
When
sorry.
you close the pipe across, will you have to shut down the waterways?
Yep, we've actually been in touch with the Coast Guard and the Harbor Master. There would be a short period of time, probably a day's worth of time, when the pipe is dragged across that there would have to be closure of the access through the bay. Yes.
Brian, Ken Latcher, I have a question with regards to trucking. Do you anticipate any large, heavy trucks, heavier than normal, going over the roads and the time frame. Will this be done before the spring thaw?
I'm gonna point back to Darren. I imagine the trucks are gonna have to be fairly large to deliver the pipe.
Yeah, so there's one of the questions is if the roads are going to get posted, we would have to require the contractor bring in all of their materials before the roads get posted. So it would have to happen during the frozen period.
All right, and then you anticipate that you'll be out before the spring thaw.
They're going to require our in-water work be done before spring. So that's going to drive the timeline.
All right, so I think I'd feel better if we're assured that if by chance it falls behind schedule, that you wait a small period of time to when the frost is actually out of the ground and then remove all the gear.
I think we can easily put in our contract documents, not allowing them to move material over the posted roads for sure.
Okay, thank you.
And as you go down the embankment and like that, to put bring the pipeline in, you'll bring the embankment and everything back to the way it is now. That'll all be in the documents, right? The trail.
That's actually part.
All the way will be back to as close as we possibly can as it is now.
Yeah, and as we explained to the Conservation Commission, we're going to minimize the clearing that we have to do down towards the shore. It'll be enough for us to get a piece of machinery and the pipe installed down the middle of the existing pipe corridor.
If you don't take down trees, you're going to replant trees.
We will be replanting. Well, that was part of the question that the Conservation Commission had. They asked us if we were going to develop a planting plan. Part of that will be driven by what New Hampshire DES will allow us to do within that shoreland zone.
Right.
We'll have a wetlands biologist on staff who's going to help us put the planting plan together.
Right. And you expect DES approval by spring, approximately, early summer?
That's our hope. We've already received their first round of questions, came in last week. So we're addressing those questions now. Unless they come up with a lot more additional questions, we're hopeful that we'll meet that timeline.
Mr. Mark, do you have any questions of these gentlemen?
I have one final question with regards to the road, the paved part. I understand now the part of the road that's not paved, will you be able to regrade that after the project?
Well, I'll make sure that we put that in the documents. We have a good detail for gravel access roads.
Great, thank you.
We also, whenever we leave a gravel access road and access a field site, we'll have a stabilized construction drive that will make sure if there's any debris or anything on the tires of the vehicles coming off the field will get taken off in that stabilized drive before it gets to the road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Martha? Do you have any questions? No. We appreciate that.
So if I may, I guess we're looking for a little feedback on this alternate site and what the preference would be from the select board as to
you're talking about the December site, right? In our maps, it's the second one, the December site.
The one in red, yes.
Yeah.
Well, getting to the walking trails, talking about the walking trails, which laydown area would have the least impact on those walking trails?
Well, like I say, based on the conversations with the Conservation Commission and their feelings on the trails, it appeared that the one in red would have less impact to the walking trails than the ones down by the barn and the more traveled route down to Fox Point. They did make note that there's much less foot traffic in the winter than there is in the summer.
The area you're talking about, gentlemen, is where they have the fireworks show at Septemberfest. So that's the field that's mowed and cleared. If you're looking towards the point, it'd be to the right of the house. and the carriage house.
If we had a preference, Ted, I would be more supportive of keeping it up behind the house and not over into across the road where September Fest is. That's just one more area that would have to be restored, so.
Well, that's gonna be a problem. They're gonna have to restore it. If they agree to it, Mr. Latcher. I have no problem with it, to be honest with you, because they're gonna put it back in its condition that it is now. Maybe a little bit better.
That's always our hope, you know. Our goal. It's likely that the farm field might be able to use a good harrow anyway.
The farm field might use a good harrow anyway.
Right, yes, that's it. It could restore that field better than we have it now, my field. Any other questions that the?
That's a good idea.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Michael.
I kind of agree with Mr. Latchar and you, Mr. Chairman, about the red area. It looks like it would be probably the better place. Are you intending to fence that area in as the construction starts, so it'll be well signed, so people know that they're not allowed to be there?
Yep, and we discussed that with the Conservation Commission also. It will be fully fenced, and
Good.
we'll have signs directing them at the beginning of the trail that the trail is closed off going around the loop, so they won't walk
Good.
all the way down and get mad at us because they can't get through. So
Absolutely. Another question, if I may. I'm looking at your December suggestions, and you have a blue area just down the end of it, alternate construction access road. In other words, you're going to be coming closer to where the boat ramp is to come in and out of this laydown area in the red area. Is that correct?
that was just a proposal, because my memory was that there was a field access drive, tractor access drive down there.
Mm-hmm.
And was going to try to utilize the existing tractor access drive as our stabilized construction entrance.
Well, that makes sense to me as well. I prefer you to stay away from the carriage house and the residences down there as well as best we can. And I noticed the way you've got the configuration for the water line coming in, you're going to have 3 water lines instead of 1, which I think is smart. And I see how it's going to curl and come back up underneath the road area. Which means
that's the existing water line already there. So
you're going to be putting something along that one, correct?
Across the bay, yes. So if you look to the left side of your drawing, you'll see a pipe that comes in over the top of the 2 existing pipes and comes in perpendicular to the existing pipe. That's the new.
I do see that. Are you going to plow that to bury it somewhere under the of the bay, or you're just going to lay it on the bottom of the bay?
It will be buried out to a depth of about 40 feet of water, so that we protect the pipe from anything happening in the shallow areas. And then it generally lays on the bottom below 40 feet of water depth.
Okay. I'm familiar with the area. I did a lot of fishing there many years ago, so I am familiar with the area. That would be my concern of how much disturbance of the bay actually gets from this project. We just put a power line across here too, so that kind of disturbed it a little bit. And I am concerned about, again, like Mr. Latchar and Mr. Connors, the reconfiguring of our road when you're done. There are some drainage issues that we could be addressing at the same time and save the town some aggravation and work with you folks to do it. So I feel it looks like the project is pretty passable to me. I don't have any real problems with this, Mr. Chairman. Over to you.
Okay, what I would entertain a motion that we let the city of Portsmouth know, and Brian, that we're in favor of this, and go ahead and wait till we get the official documents to review and sign them. Is that would be the steps on it?
So moved.
I believe you're in favor of the December plan.
That's correct. Right. I'll second that motion.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Mr. Latchar,
Yes.
Connors, yes.
I have one other question, Chairman, if I may. The Conservation Commission met with you folks. Did they have a specific they thought was better than what we just voted on? I should have asked that first. I'm sorry.
They
Dave.
definitely were in favor of a construction staging area that least impacted the walking trails.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you for that. Appreciate that.
Any further? Brian, do you have anything else to say?
I don't.
To
Thank
ask?
you very much.
All right, good to talk with you, Brian. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Old business?
The board has in their pack, oh, no old business.
No old business. What do we got?
Under new business, the board has a request from the Historic District Commission to add a warrant article to the town warrant. It states to put forth a warrant article to designate the abandoned burial area by the horse sheds as an addition to the town cemetery for the purpose of permanently preserving the burial sites, with the understanding that the cemetery trustees are the oversight body for the abandoned burial area, and the selectmen are the oversight body for the preservation of the horse sheds.
Is there any objection to that? To have them come in and draft a warrant for this?
If I may speak to it, Mr. Chairman,
Please, Michael.
as your select rep to the HDC, we've had many discussions about this. It seems the consensus of the HDC and the cemetery committee that this would be a good way to do it. I think it's a fair way to do it, and we get some recognition for some people who we feel are buried out there. And I think this is a good move. So I really want to support this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Are you making another motion, Mr.?
So moved.
Second.
Made, second. I would recommend that they do this, if there's any questions that the library trustees and the HDC sit down and resolve the issues and how to put this together. And get the article ready by next Tuesday, I believe it is, Martha, right?
If the selectmen propose or decide to insert the warrant article, you have a little more flexibility. But yes, I would also recommend that you run it by the town attorney to make sure that it is viable.
That's fine. Do you need a clarification on the motion or what?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Anything?
Roll call on that vote.
Oh, on the water vote, thank you very much. On the water vote, Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Mr. Lanshaw,
Yes.
Connors, yes. And then we get to the HCC, encourage the people to do a Zoom, do a warrant article on the burials. We need a motion on it. We have a motion on it. Do we have a motion on it, Eleanor, please?
Yeah, you already have a motion on it.
And second, we'll do a roll call vote then. Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Mr. Lanshaw,
Yes.
Connors, yes. Martha, do we have anything other than that's on the agenda here?
I believe we were discussing, you and I, about having the library trustees and the HDC and selectmen or reps of each board discuss what the property lines should be. Is that part of what you were just talking about? Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And we have can we tell about that?
Oh, right.
We have a 350 we've added late this afternoon. It's on the Eversource agreement with the coal company on the roads. Mr. Heaven's been working, Martha, and working on that. Karen Anderson been working on it. Remember we had a survey done by the coal company to survey the roads before and after. They come back with their recommendations. Our committee put it together to Eversource. Eversource listened very nicely and came back and said that they would offer us $20,000 to give us $20,000 and we could fix up the roads and the corners and the curves as outlined in the agreement. I'd like to Dennis Ebert is going to join us, or maybe he is. Dennis, are you with us yet?
Can you hear me?
Dennis?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes.
Dennis, you're there. Good. Dennis, would you update us and tell us where we are and your recommendations, please?
Yeah, basically, I think there's a big difference. SW Cole was supposed to be coming in to do a before and after survey. It's supposed to photograph everything and document everything per an MOU that we had with Eversource. We had Eric from Weinrib, Altus Engineering review the SW Cole estimates and things that they thought were wrong. And according to, I think the big disagreement is going on right now is that Eversource is claiming that they feel as though SW Cole was the third party that would have the sole jurisdiction to make that decision as to what they would pay. I believe the agreement allows the town, and this is what Attorney John Radigan had felt, that the agreement allowed the town to be able to weigh in on that and give a difference of opinion. And they also had the right to be able to do the same. They are claiming that we do not. So the only way this is going to be resolved, in my opinion, is sending this to their recent letter to John Radigan, who has been the attorney for this, and have him review the agreements and make sure that we are on good standing with what the MOU says and proceed with that. And I think it's now come down to a legal issue because we seem to be pretty far off between what Altus Engineering thought would be an impact on the road versus what SW Cole came up with.
Well, SW Cole is sided with Eversource.
Yeah, what bothered me here a little bit is Dina, who was the project manager, said she was talking with SW Cole from the beginning. I felt very uncomfortable with the fact that she had been having those conversations without our knowledge. So I do know we do have an agreement, and I do think that we should be able to pursue that and let the attorneys basically work out this issue, because it's nothing that I or you or anyone's going to resolve. This is a legal matter and what the agreement says.
All right, but there's an agreement, but there's also a number that's put to this, and there's a big disparity between the two numbers. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ted?
There's a big difference between the two numbers that have come up with also, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, to be honest with you, they said $20,000 versus like 300 and I forgot the number, 300 something thousand.
Right.
And probably, you know, I'm not sure where the total impact is going to fall, but there's damage that can occur to roads that just can't be seen. And that's the one thing I would like to tell you is that we have to decide, and this is where John would come in and probably Martha and I and all of you would have to come in. When was their final construction date? Because they still haven't signed off on the project. Because we have a bond that's supposed to go 2 years beyond the final acceptance date for the project.
Right.
So even 2 years from now, if the road falls apart 2 years even from now, we still have a claim with them. And that's the part I don't think they seem to understand. And that's Dina. What they've done throughout the project is deny, 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 and they say you're wrong, you're wrong, and wrong. And then we have to show it to them in black and white and bring it out, and then they finally agree. All right. So we've been very successful through this whole project. It's just right now at this point, we're at a huge disparity between us, you know?
Yep.
And
Okay.
the only way it's going to be resolved is with the attorney. And I suspect it's not going to be a long, drawn-out thing. I think John and Adam, who's the attorney for Eversource, will get together, and they'll basically, I think, fairly quickly come to terms. Because what we do have is a bond that we can call in. That is very clear. It's in the agreement. It's for $500,000, and we're putting in for $350,000 or thereabouts. What we think is the possible damages. Okay, so, and I'm not sure if we have the right to just call it in if they disagree with us, and I suspect that we do.
All right. So your recommendation is we turn this over to Attorney Radigan to review it, the agreement, and proceed and negotiate with, get back to us after talking with others.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should do that, and he's going to take into consideration Altus Engineering input on all this as well. So that's that's the only thing we can do at this point.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the other thing you could do is just drop it. The other thing you could just drop it and take the $20,000 and go away.
Yeah, we could do that, but I think we're cutting that way short, Dennis.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to have a motion that we proceed on the recommendation by Dennis.
So moved.
Mr. Lashaw, there's a second by Mr. Marconi.
I will second it and like to discuss it a matter with you, please.
Please, discussion.
I understand what what Dennis had just said, and I concur with his analysis of what's going on. We do have a bond with them. They are definitely not being very friendly to us, although they wanted us to be friendly with them in the beginning. And I remember how friendly they wanted us to be. Now that the shoe has dropped, a little different story here. But I don't think $20,000 is a drop in a bucket compared to what they've done to our roads, my friend. And I seriously think this is going to have to be looked at. And I think I trust Mr. Radigan's decisions, but I also want to have the final say. The selectmen should have the final say of what we're going to do with this project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I believe the selectmen do have the final say. That's why Dennis is telling us, and we're referring back for a report back for the final decision.
Right. Thank you.
Ted, I'd ask too that recommendation would come along with a recommendation from our town engineer to make sure that he's had an opportunity to read the agreement.
I agree.
Well, he's been involved in this, and he's the one that came up with the estimate for the 300 plus. Yeah, so that'll all be in the review process before we tackle it, guys.
Right.
That's good. Thank you.
Roll call on that thing, Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mr. Latshaw?
Yes.
Connors, yes. Anything else?
That's all I have.
That's all we get. Dennis, thank you very much for the short notice and coming and bringing this forward for us. Much appreciated.
All right. Thank you for your support in getting this project completed. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
The board now has a non-public at 4 p.m. So all other listeners will be dropped and can rejoin the call. Or we are going to get off the call and go on another call. That might be the best.
Yeah, why don't we hang up and we'll go on a conference call. Martha, can we do that on this phone system here or?
Yes, and then rejoin the Zoom call. Right.
Okay. Why don't we tell them what to do?
Okay, board members, you will need to make a motion to go into non-public session. For
So
legal matters.
moved.
I'll second it.
Second it.
Before we have the vote the question I have nothing to do with the vote. What did you say about Zoom versus phoning in?
We're after you've taken your votes, I will call you on speakerphone and we'll proceed with a non-public conference call.
Okay.
Then, and I'll also call the other parties involved. Then after that, we will rejoin this Zoom call
Okay.
to make motions that I would recommend you make, i.e. to seal the minutes and to adjourn
Absolutely.
officially.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay,
And what are we gonna do with Eleanor?
Eleanor's going to join the conference call.
Okay.
Well, we didn't have the vote on going into executive
No,
session.
that's coming now. Mr.
No.
Lashaw,
Okay.
Mr. Lashaw, favor?
Yeah.
Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Connors, yes.
Okay, we'll be back on the Zoom call in approximately a half an hour.
I got a question for you, Martha.
Yeah,
Are we gonna go through my iPad or am I gonna use the telephone? I'm a little lost on this one.
telephone,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
We're gonna go to a public meeting on the phone, or be on the phone for 2 hours. Next motion is $20,000. Yeah, all the same. You have no way to negotiate that. It takes me to have me to take that. Dennis Evans involved with that one too.
Is someone going to be calling me? You're on,
Martha just texted me for your phone number.
545-1761.
Okay.
Oh, boy. The Zoom was perfect.
I know, but other people
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, I understood.
Yes. Oh, can you guys leave Zoom? There are people still on. So we're out.
Okay. I'm leaving.
Which way are we going, Martha?
We're just waiting for the other two selectmen to join us so you can take your final actions of the evening.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Hey, Ted, what are the headlines? Good headlines in the paper?
Oh,
No.
Chris is seeing you on the.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, Chris, I'll hold it. We're very accommodating here.
I'll get my spectacles on here. Well, I bet it's been chilly down there on the bay where you are.
Pardon?
Chilly on
Bet
the
it's been
bay.
awful chilly down on the bay where you are.
Oh, that wind is awful. The whole bay is full of ice now.
Wow.
A couple of days ago, it was a little, now it's Jesse filled up half, the rest of it's all full right now. I would walk on it. A light fellow like you probably could get away with it, but not me, Chris.
No, you're taller, but I'm just as heavy, unfortunately.
Let's not go do any smelt fishing, boys.
Yeah, those days are gone.
Get ready
Yeah.
for the Derby coming up in a
Yeah,
few weeks.
I know, I'm surprised.
Mike, did the smelt still run in the shallow waters there?
They do. It depends on how the weather is. It's not been cold enough yet, but they did do.
Oh,
They do. And I tell them, I love nice fried smelts. One of my favorite.
tell Lenny to get his ice houses back out there.
They got to have a little more thicker ice than that, there, Chris.
Okay, and I think.
Hey.
we can watch
There
on.
he is.
There he is.
All right.
Sorry to have you come back, Mr. Latch. I know it's nap time. You got a big night ahead of you, too.
Well, Martha had to let me in. I shut mine down completely.
Oh. Okay, well,
Okay.
we need a motion to come back into regular session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
Roll call?
Roll call. Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Mr. Latchaw,
Yes.
Connors, yes. What's the motion? we need now?
And we need a motion to seal the minutes indefinitely of the non-public.
So moved.
Second.
Second. This low battery.
Are you there? Great.
Yeah. Roll call is Mr. Marconi, Mr.
Yes.
Latchaw, Mr. Connors,
Yes.
yes. Okay,
And then a motion to adjourn.
and a motion to
So
adjourn.
moved. So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening. Catch up with you
Yep.
later.
Take care.
All right.
Nice to see you, Chris. Take care.
You bet,
All right,
Mike.
Chris. Nice of you to hang
Okay.
in.
Thanks, Martha.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.